the White House now, where you're seeing live pictures of the US president meeting with the South Korean leader, walking through that guard of honor there. They're going to have bilateral talks in the coming hours about their plans to boost their military ties in the region, work together on more military training drills, sharing intelligence, and of course they're going to sign what they're calling the Washington Declaration that will see US nuclear submarines go to South Korean waters for the first time in decades, the first time since the 1980s. I understand our Paula Hancocks is standing by. Paula, if you can hear me right now, we've lost Paula, I understand. But this visit, of course, comes less than 2 weeks after North Korea tested a solid fuel intercontinental ballistic missile. So, as I said, the presidents are expected to sign this very significant agreement. We will be following what takes place in North Korea over the coming days and weeks. Often when we see any sort of new agreement, we can see some sort of reaction from North Korea. It has been quite a spectacle on the White House lawns today. The US president is just about to speak there. Let's listen in.
And review!
You're looking right now at live pictures from the lawns of the White House. Certainly a great spectacle today. We have seen the Marine Band playing. Earlier we saw a Korean choir singing. We have our Kevin Liptak standing by in Washington, D.C., watching how this official state visit plays out. Kevin, if you can hear me, certainly a lot of pomp and ceremony, but what does this all signify about the relationship between South Korea and the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we look at these images and they are full of this ceremony. You see the red carpets, you see the, fifes and drums. But what that really does symbolize is this critical relationship between the United States and South Korea. This is not something that the White House rolls out for just any country. In fact, this is only the second time that President Biden has extended an invitation for this sort of state visit to one of their allies. So it is symbolic, but it also really does underscore the importance that Washington is placing on its relationship with Seoul. In fact, this is the 70th anniversary of the alliance between the United States and South Korea. And so certainly President Biden wants to reinforce that. But this visit is not just about what you're seeing here, which is the drumming and the trumpets and the bands. This is about North Korea, and it's about nuclear deterrence. And they are expected to arrive at some quite significant agreements when they sit down in the Oval Office later today. They've signed, or they're planning to sign, an agreement that would say that the U.S. will help boost nuclear deterrence in the region. In fact, the U.S. is agreeing to send a ballistic nuclear submarine to the Korean Peninsula, and that's a significant step. It's the first time, I think, in 40 years that the U.S. has taken that step, and it does reflect this heightened tension in the area, and I'm not sure.
I'm just going to interrupt you right now. The U.S. president is speaking. Let's listen in.
Friendship that unites the Republic of Korea and the United States. President Yoon, Ms. Kim, you were kind enough to host me in Seoul last year, just 10 days after your inauguration. And Jill and I were honored to be able to return some of your hospitality with your second state visit to this administration.
철통 같은 동맹을 축하하고 우리의 미래를 위해 우리가 공유하는 비전 그리고 우리의 깊은 우정을 통해 대한민국과 미국이 연합해 됨을 경축하고자 합니다. 윤석열 대통령님, 김건희 여사님, 취임하신 지 불과 열흘 후이셨음에도 작년 서울에서 저를 따뜻하게 맞아주신 데 대해 감사드립니다. 저와 제 아내는 이제 그때 받은 환대를 저희 행정부의 제2차 국빈 방문을 통해 일부나마 갚아드릴 수 있게 되어 기쁩니다.
This year marks the 70th anniversary of the alliance between our two nations. It's an unbreakable bond, forged in bravery and the sacrifice of our people, sanctified by the blood of American and Korean troops who fought and defended liberty. And I'm proud we are joined today by veterans of the Korean War.
올해는 우리 두 국가의 동맹 70주년을 맞이하는 해입니다. 이는 우리 국민들의 용기와 희생의 토대 위에 세워진 끊어질 수 없는 관계입니다. 자유를 수호하기 위해 함께 싸운 미군 그리고 한국군 장병의 피로 거룩하게 된 관계인 것입니다. 오늘 특별히 한국전 참전용사 분들께서 이 자리에 함께하고 계신 것에 큰 자부심을 느낍니다.
Those veterans are the reason we can stand here today. Two vibrant and innovative democracies, we stand as strong, proud, and free because of them. And it's so meaningful, Mr. President, to visit the Korean War Veterans Memorial with you last night, to lay a wreath of remembrance, to fulfill a sacred obligation.
예, 이 참전 용사분들은 활발하고 혁신적인 민주주의 국가인 우리 두 나라가 강하고 당당하고 자유롭게 함께 설 수 있는 이유입니다. 윤 대통령님 또한 어제 저녁 대통령님 내외분과 함께 한국전 참전 기념비를 방문하여 기념 헌화하고 우리의 거룩한 의무를 수행한 것은 의미 있는 시간이었습니다.
On September 1, 1950, Corporal Luther Story performed acts of bravery above and beyond all measure, defending his brothers in arms on the Pusan perimeter in the Korean War. The last anyone saw of the corporal, he was wounded, fighting off the hostile assault to protect his company's withdrawal. In 1951, his heroism was recognized with the Medal of Honor, but Corporal Story's body was never accounted for until now. The Republic of Korea and the United States worked together to identify Corporal Story's remains among those buried as a Korean War unknown in the National Memorial Cemetery of the Pacific. Today, we can return him to his family and to his rest with all the honors he deserves because we never forget our heroes.
1950년 9월 1일 루서 스토리 상병은 한국정 당시 부산 교두보에서 동료 전우들을 보호하기 위해 모든 수단을 초월해 용기를 발휘했습니다. 스토리 상병을 마지막으로 복격한 사람들의 증언에 따르면 그는 자기 자신 부상당한 채로 퇴각하는 중대를 보호하고자 적군의 공격에 맞서 싸웠습니다. 이듬해 1951년 그의 영웅적인 행동이 인정받아 자유훈장이 추서되었습니다. 하지만 상병의 유해는 찾지 못했습니다. 바로 최근까지 말이죠. 그러나 대한민국과 미국은 협력을 통해 국립태평양 기념묘지의 한국인 무명용사 유해 가운데 스토리 상병의 유해를 찾아내게 되었고 오늘 스토리 상병을 그가 마땅히 받아야 할 영예와 함께 그의 가족의 품 그리고 참된 안식으로 되돌려 드릴 수 있게 되었습니다. 이는 우리가 우리의 영웅을 결코 잊지 않았기 때문이었습니다.
Mr. President, Over the past 7 decades, our alliance has grown stronger and more capable. And the cooperation between our people, our commitment to one another, has grown deeper across every aspect of our partnership. Today, our economies are in the vanguard of technological development. Our nations are powerhouses of innovation. And our people, united still by our democratic values, are taking on the challenges of the world. We're taking them on together. We're standing strong against Russia's brutal aggression against Ukraine, advancing an Indo-Pacific region that is free and open, building secure and resilient supply chains, and pioneering the clean energy economy. Investing together to ensure our future will be grounded in the values that we share, which have always made us strong.
대통령님, 지난 70년 동안 우리의 동맹은 그 힘과 능력이 증가되어 왔습니다. 우리 양 국민들 간의 협력, 서로를 향한 헌신 또한 우리의 파트너십의 모든 측면에 걸쳐 깊어져 왔습니다. 오늘 우리 양국 경제는 기술 발전의 선봉에 서 있습니다. 우리 두 국가는 혁신의 파워하우스, 동력입니다. 우리 국민들은 민주주의적 가치 아래 하나 되어 전 세계의 도전에 함께 대응하고 있습니다. 우리는 우크라이나에 대한 러시아의 잔인한 침공에 함께 맞서고 있으며 자유롭고 개방된 인태 지역을 위해 일하고 안전하고 회복력 있는 공급망 구축, 청정에너지 경제 선도를 통해 우리가 함께 공유하는 가치, 그리고 과거에도 언제나 우리를 강하게 만들어준 그 가치 위에 우리의 미래 역시 그 기반을 둘 수 있도록 하기 위해 함께 투자하고 있습니다.
Mr. President, ours is a future filled with unimaginable opportunity and endless possibility. Nothing is beyond our ability to reach when our nations and our people stand united. We have proven that time and again over the last 70 years. As our troops say, who still proudly serve together in the ROK to this day, we go together. May we continue that refrain of the Republic of Korea and the United States for all the days ahead. We go together. God bless our nations and God protect our troops. Thank you.
대통령님, 우리의 미래는 엄청난 기회와 무한한 가능성으로 채워져 있습니다. 우리 두 국가와 양 국민이 함께 선다면 우리가 하지 못할 일은 없을 것입니다. 지난 70년 동안 우리는 이를 계속해 입증해 왔습니다. 우리 장병들, 지금도 당당하게 대한민국에서 함께 복무하는 이들이 오늘까지 함께 외치는 것처럼 같이 갑시다. 또한 이 함성이 다가오는 미래에도 대한민국과 미 합중국의 변치 않는 합창 소리요 후렴이 되길 기원합니다. 함께 갑시다. 하나님께서 우리 양국을 축복하시고 우리 장병들을 보호하시길 기도하고 축원합니다.
Distinguished guests, the President of the Republic of Korea.
존경하는 조 바이든 대통령님, 질 바이든 박사님, 그리고 귀빈 여러분, 저는 어제 조 바이든 대통령님 그리고 질 바이든 박사님과 함께 내셔널 몰에 있는 한국전 참전 기념 공원에 다녀왔습니다.
Mr. President, Dr. Biden, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, last evening, my wife and I visited the Korean War Memorial on the National Mall with President Biden and Dr. Biden.
저는 그곳에서 우리는 전혀 알지 못하는 나라, 만난 적 없는 국민을 지키기 위해 국가의 부름에 응한 우리의 아들과 딸들에게 경의를 표한다는 비문을 보았습니다.
There I saw the epitaph that reads, "Our nation honors her sons and daughters who answered the call to defend a country they never knew and a people they never met."
왜 그들은 알지 못한 나라, 만난 적 없는 국민을 위해 목숨을 바쳤을까요? 그것은 바로 자유를 지키기 위한 것이었습니다.
Why did they sacrifice their lives for this faraway country and for the people they never met? That was for one noble cause, to defend freedom.
한미동맹은 자유를 위한 투쟁의 결과 탄생한 혈맹입니다. 한미동맹은 이익에 따라 만나고 헤어지는 거래관계가 아닙니다. 한미동맹은 자유라는 보편적 가치를 수호하기 위한 가치 동맹입니다.
The ROC-US alliance was forged in blood as a result of our fight for freedom. The ROC-US alliance is not a transactional relationship. It does not operate for the sake of mere interest. The ROC-US alliance is an alliance of values standing together to safeguard the universal value of freedom.
그러므로 한미동맹은 정의로운 동맹입니다. 한미동맹은 세계의 자유와 평화, 번영을 위한 글로벌 동맹입니다. 한미동맹은 미래로 나아가는 동맹이고 행동하는 동맹입니다. 저는 동맹의 70년 역사를 되돌아보고 동맹의 미래를 함께 설계하기 위해 여기 왔습니다. 그리고 자랑스러운 동맹 70주년을 동맹국 국민들과 함께 기쁜 마음으로 축하하고 기념하기 위해 여기에 왔습니다.
Thus, the ROC-US alliance is a just alliance. It is a global alliance for the freedom, peace, and prosperity around the world. The ROC-US alliance is an alliance in action, moving toward the future. Ladies and gentlemen, I came here to look back to the 70-year-long history of our alliance and with President Biden to design the vision for our shared future. I came here to celebrate and congratulate on the 70th anniversary of the alliance with pride, with joy, and with the American people.
다시 한번 국빈으로 초청해 주신 바이든 대통령님, 질 바이든 박사님, 그리고 미국 국민 여러분께 감사드립니다.
President Dr. Biden, I once again thank you for your kind invitation for my state visit, and I also thank the American people for your warm welcome and hospitality. Thank you.
You've just been listening there to the US President Biden and the South Korean President Yoon speaking outside the White House on what is the 70th anniversary of the US-South Korean alliance. US President Biden spoke about the two vibrant, independent democracies and spoke about how the alliance has grown stronger, how their commitment has grown deeper, and how they're both nations, powerhouses of innovation, and that together they're taking on the challenges of the world. And the South Korean President Yoon reiterated that message about the strength of the alliance, saying that the alliance aims to safeguard the universal value of freedom. The two leaders will soon walk past the Rose Garden and later head on to a dinner tonight. Our Kevin Liptak is in Washington, D.C. following the ceremony, following the speeches. Certainly a lot spoken there about the strength of the relationship between these two countries.
Right.
The biggest question is how far will the U.S. go to support and protect South Korea?
Yeah, and that's the question that a lot of South Koreans will have and that President Yoon certainly has as well. And I think the President Biden's message in delivering this state visit, in extending the invitation for this highest form of American diplomacy, is that the U.S. will stand by South Korea and that it takes this treaty alliance very seriously. And you saw that as well when President Biden visited Seoul last year, really underscoring the commitment of the United States to defend South Korea from its neighbor in the north, but also from this broader growing threat in the region. And so when you see them sit down today, this was sort of the symbolic part of this visit, but they will go down and meet in the Oval Office in just a few minutes from now, and that is where the business of this visit will really get underway. And they are expected to talk about this idea of nuclear deterrence and the United States upping its commitments in that area, including sending a ballistic nuclear submarine to the region. This really kind of laying the groundwork for what could be potentially a much deeper military alliance going forward. And it really tells you these efforts at diplomacy with North Korea that had been pursued by the former President Donald Trump. And in fact, the Biden administration had hoped to pursue some level of diplomacy with Pyongyang as well. That has stalled, that has not been successful. Every American effort to get Kim Jong-un and his staff to the table, to the negotiating table, has failed. They haven't really gotten much of a response. And this is an indication that they may have to go in another direction to really show to South Korea that they take its defense seriously. And of course, the other, major area that they want to discuss is China. The U.S. really does see South Korea as a key component of its strategy in the region as it works to counter military aggressions, economic aggressions from Beijing. And so they will want to talk about that as well, because this is really sort of the key to President Biden's strategy in Asia, is developing this alliance bloc that could prove counter to Beijing as those tensions escalate as well.
Yeah, and that nuclear deterrence is key, as you say. Kevin Liptak for us in Washington, D.C. Those bilateral talks are soon about to get underway between the presidents of South Korea and the U.S. We'll have much more on that next hour. I'm Lynda Kinkade. For now, we're going to go over to World Sport in just a moment. Stay with us. You're watching CNN.